How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Blade Runner Black Lotus. This is the animated series from Adult Swim and Crunchyroll. Today we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 12, and this episode's entitled Artificial Souls. This is from January 29th/30th, 2022, depending on your time zone and if it came out after midnight. And this is, of course, once again directed by Kenji Kamiyama and Shinji Aramaki, the series creators. And, of course, once again, we star Jessica Henwick as Elle. Now, this is the penultimate episode. This is episode 12 of 13. This is the last episode before the season finale. And I do want to say, they did say season finale in the trailers and not series finale. So that does leave the possibility for season 2 open. I am curious, the last episode coming out, will they tie everything up in a bow? Will they have a stinger for season 2? Like, I am kind of curious how this will play out. And if they're going to leave it open for other seasons. I mean, Elle's story seems to be wrapping up, but they can always make up a new adventure for her to go on. And, I am kind of curious what will happen to the show after the season's over. Hopefully we get another season. Maybe it will be anthology. Maybe it will be a different character we follow around each time. I don't know, but I would like more of this. This show really has grown on me. But anyway, this episode is a big brawl episode. Lots and lots of fighting. If you want action and fighting, this is definitely a really good episode, and it's one of the better episodes of the series. This is really part 1 of the finale. I mean, it's not really a 2-part episode, but this does feel like the first big brawl, and then the second episode, the last one rather, will be, hopefully, a giant epic spectacle. But this fight was pretty good. Now, you think it's going to be Elle versus White Lotus, and you do get a bit of that fight, but that's kind of cut short because you have to save that for the finale. This is really the Joseph versus Marlowe episode, and I really do like this pairing. The former Blade Runner versus the current Blade Runner. I mean, Joseph at one point in time, well, I think he still does, he has the record for most replicants killed. So he was big back in the day, but we haven't really seen him fight lately. He mainly stayed at the house, and then he did help Ellie out, but with the sniper rifle, so we never seen him in direct combat. Does he still got it? He had the training. He's able to take out a ton of replicants. But Marlowe is big and scary. Can Joseph still face up to him? Who knows? It's going to be a close one, and it really is a close one. This fight at the end, not only does it take up a good portion of this episode, like literally about half the episode is just this fight sequence, and it does come out really cool. Lots of weight and action behind it. And I think this is probably due to the fact that they use the mocap actors. When you have a fight in animation, but you use motion capture, it has a lot more weight. It feels much more realistic. And that's the thing is when you do a fight in animation, it could come out a little light where you feel like anything could happen and the stakes aren't as good. But when you make it more grounded in reality like this, it really comes out pretty well. So major props for the mocap artist and the whole team there. And also just for attempting something so big and ambitious, but then having it pull out really well. I mean, it's really amazing, But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk a bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few of the plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding of the episode. But if you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend it. Go pause the review right now and watch it. But I'll avoid the end bits, But anyway, let's start off with the memory lab and L versus Water Lily. Now, sadly for this fight, L doesn't have her sword, and I guess they are saving the sword-on-sword combat for the final episode, and I guess that's the reason why. Still, I want to see that sword fight, so we'll have to wait for that. Now, you really do get to see the power level of these two. They really wreck up the whole memory lab, and it's, again, a really cool fight sequence. Jessica Henwick voices both characters. You know, Elle sees Water Lily and goes, "Wait a minute, you're me," and she goes, "Yeah, but I'm the new model." And, you know, you gotta hear Water Lily talk a little bit last episode, but this episode you really see how stiff and robotic her voice is, and major props to Jessica Henwick for being able to do Elle, who's so light and happy and upbeat. She likes kittens because they're cute and fluffy, and then being able to do Water Lily, who's so stiff and robotic you'd almost think it was a completely different voice actress. That's really cool. Now, I looked in the credits again, and they only credit one motion capture artist for both Elle and Water Lily, so I don't really know how they did this fight sequence. I would like to see if they do a Blu-ray for the show, and I hope they do a Blu-ray for it. I would love to see behind the scenes on how they did all this stuff. But anyway, it's a pretty good fight between the two, and you have to wonder who would really win. Water Lily is the new model. She, in theory, would be better. But the thing with Black Lotus is she's had a lot more real-world experience. She survived the doll hunt. She did this whole big thing where she was tracking down these people, which led to several action sequences. And overall, Elle has more real-world experience, and I believe, you know, Water Lily doesn't have as much free will. She doesn't have as much ability to think and be creative, and I think that might hamper her fighting. You know, Elle can think on her feet a lot better because she has much more free will, and I think this might be an upper hand, but it's still really close. But the fight, of course, is broken up because the police show up. The police show up, both of them scatter, and it cuts the fight off prematurely and saves it for episode 13. Hopefully Elle will have her sword this time and we get that duel that we want. Now, when she leaves, in the last episode, Joseph called Officer Davis, and the two are going to meet. Elle's running in the back alley. Officer Davis pulls out her gun and says, "Hey, stop right there." And Elle goes, "I'm not coming with you because you're just going to retire me." And Officer Davis goes, "No, I saw the desert. I know about all those replicants. I know Nyander Wallace is behind this. I don't want to kill you. I want to get the real big bad." And Elle goes, "I'm sorry, we're on our own paths. I don't think I can trust you." And she calls Officer Davis's bluff, and even though Officer Davis is pointing a gun right at her, Elle just walks past her and basically says, "Yeah, I dare you to shoot me," and of course she doesn't. So, a pretty cool scene right there. But you also get, after this, Officer Davis decides to go tell her superiors on the phone about Nyander Wallace, and she is stabbed by Water Lily before this can happen. Now, of course, she does get up and disappear, so she does live, although I'd imagine she's pretty badly wounded. And, you know, I have to say, when she first got stabbed, I was really disappointed because Officer Davis, I felt, is this character, a classic Blade Runner detective who's really down-to-earth and serious. I felt that they could have done a lot more with her, and to see her get stabbed, at first I was like, oh man, that really is such a waste of a good character. I wish it was more. But then she gets away, and I was so glad that she got away, because I'm like, that would have been a really disappointing death had they had gone for it. So I'm glad she gets away there. But then, after that, the focus of the episode, Joseph knows he'll never really be at peace with Marlowe out there, so he decides to do the noble thing and call him up to fight. Marlowe gets to the door and is like, I wondered when I heard from you. You know, you really could have just assassinated me, popped up when I wasn't expecting it and just shot me. But you did the honorable thing and said, hey, let's fight. Now, Joseph's sitting there, he has his arm behind the couch and he flicks a cigarette out and uses that as a distraction to get the first shot off at Marlowe. But you know it's not going to be that easy. Marlowe, of course, has his big shotgun. I really do love this weapon. He's a big, powerful, imposing guy, and he has a weapon that just goes boom and leaves a big hole in everything. And there's several times where Marlowe almost kills Joseph even really early on, and you see just a big shotgun blast right by Joseph's head. It really does a good job. I mean, this is episode 12. We're almost at the end of the season. None of the characters are really safe at this point, so you don't know if Joseph's going to die in this fight sequence. And, you know, he was the one with the high score, but Marlowe's the one who's still been out doing this. Marlowe's the one that's been big and tough and scary this whole time. Joseph's older, he's out of practice. Is he going to be as good? And they really do make it really close. There's so much weight and tension to this fight sequence, and they really do. They start off in the apartment, they go out onto the balconies, up the elevator, and onto the roof to end the whole thing. Lots and lots of just brutal beatdowns in this fight sequence, and it goes on for quite a while, and it came out really, really good, so major props to everyone that worked on this. This is a really cool fight sequence, and it's worth watching the episode just to watch this, you know? So I really did love the Marlowe versus Joseph fight sequence. Now, during the fight sequence, I won't spoil what it is, but there is a revelation. And I really didn't like this revelation. It's kind of a take-back, you know, and I don't really like take-backs in stories. And it also, when you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm just wondering how it worked from the angle, you know? Because I'm like, how did that happen and then it didn't also do this? I'll cover this more. I think I'll do a spoiler discussion when the season's over, and I'll probably talk about this more there. And not a big fan of the revelation, just felt like a take-back. But anyway, there is also, and I won't spoil exactly what this is either, but there's a fun fantasy sequence at the end where one of the characters imagines something, and it's just so delightfully cheesy. I really did love this too, but it did come a little bit out of the blue. So I am curious what you guys thought of the fantasy sequence towards the end. I thought it was cheesy but pretty fun. But yeah, it does just come out of nowhere. I get what they were going for, but I thought it was really interesting, and I am curious what people will think of it. But anyway, overall, really good episode. Recommend watching it just for that Joseph and Marlowe fight scene. It is really cool, and you do see how, like, the maximum potential of this show. And I know fight scenes aren't really what Blade Runner's known for. I mean, in the first movie, you got some chases, but, like, the end fight scene between, you know, Deckard and the last replicant, baddie, that was really more just Deckard trying to survive. That was more a slasher sequence than a fight sequence. But I feel like with the fight sequences, that's kind of this show picking up its own identity. It's set in the Blade Runner world and still feels like the franchise, but this series wants to be its own thing and have its own identity, and overall I can really respect that. And if part of that identity is doing really cool fight sequences, especially leading to this one, I can really appreciate that, you know? So, like I said in the past, this show really has grown on me. At first I was like, what's this? This is different than normal Blade Runner, but, I mean, by episode 12, I'm really hooked, and I was secretly hoping that they might air episode 13 back-to-back, and of course they didn't, but I'll be definitely tuning in next week to see how this whole thing wraps up. I am curious, and I hope we get more Blade Runner animation. I really do like this show now. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, Thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Blade Runner playlist. If you guys want to see more, you can click there and see more and find my review for the first movie, Soldier, the spin-off film with Kurt Russell, some of the comics, and all the past episodes of the show. By the way, speaking of the comics, I think the trade paperback for Volume 2 of Blade Runner 2029, I think that comes out February 8th, which means it will come out shortly after the finale of this show. So I really like that, you know, big Blade Runner week there, I guess. I am looking forward to, the comics are pretty good. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.